There is no doubt that honest and frank discussion of problematic marital relationships is an important hallmark of post-independence Indian poetry in English. You find this kind of discussion in Nazim Ezekiel, who in case study admits that his marriage was the worst mistake of all, and who in background casually says to this effect, married, changed jobs, and saw myself a fool. You find it in R. Parthasarathi, who in one of his sections of Rough Passage quotes the Greek poets who said, better to bury a woman, better to bury a woman than to marry her. You find it in Kamala Das, who in poem after poem pours scorn upon her husband. The point is that free and frank and honest discussion of problematic marital relationships is an important hallmark of post-independence Indian poetry in English. In Brother's anecdotes of how noisily father bathed, slapping soap on his back, the poet first uses the powerful metaphor albums of family rumors. Then he amplifies on it. He exemplifies by taking a sample from one of the albums. It is an anecdote. An anecdote is a story, especially an interesting story, usually about a real person, usually about something which happened in the life of a real person. In Brother's anecdotes, notice that the apostrophe is placed after the S, not between the R and the S. This shows that there were more than one brother present. There was more than one brother present. And more than one brothers took part in the event of narrating the anecdotes. One of the anecdotes was regarding how father bathed noisily, slapping soap on his back. Again, these lines are part of the revolution unleashed by post-independence Indian poetry in English. What happens inside the bathroom is not something which has to be revealed outside the bathroom. If you are someone following the norms of Victorian morality, the norms of Victorian culture, and this was precisely what happened in pre-independence Indian poetry in English. After independence, the English language poets of India experienced a newfound freedom, a sudden widening of thematic horizons. And part of this widening is the discussion of what takes place inside the bathroom. Discussing such matters was taboo to the pre-independence poets who were very much influenced by Victorian culture, by Victorian life, by Victorian norms. Thus, father bathes noisily. He slapped soap on his back. And this is part of the anecdotes. This is one of the anecdotes narrated by the brothers of the speaker. Find sources for a familiar sheep mouth look in a sepia wedding picture. Sheep mouth Sheep mouth. What does it mean? Sheepish means embarrassed, showing lack of self confidence, displaying a sense of shame. And perhaps A.K. Ramanujan uses the term sheep mouth to mean the same thing. But sheep mouth also means having a dry throat and a dry mouth, especially as a result of smoking weed. Find sources for a familiar sheep mouth. When you look at the wedding picture, you find sheep mouth. You find an embarrassed look on the face of the person. In a sepia wedding picture, sepia is brown. It's a beautiful word. I love that word. Brown, especially reddish brown. And sepia is a color associated with black and white photographs. In a sepia wedding picture of father in a turban, mother standing on her bare splayed feet. How shall we explain find sources for? I think one way to interpret it is to say that those who are looking at the picture are trying to identify the ancestors who were responsible for giving the sheep mouth look. Find sources for. Locate the ancestors who must have passed down the sheep mouth look. Father in a turban. Brahmins at the time used to wear their hair long, used to wear their hair in tufts, and the British administrators insisted that the Brahmins who went to offices, went to work in courts, practiced as lawyers, had to wear turbans, and thus wearing turbans became a sort of norm among the Brahmins who interacted with the British in official capacities. A.K. Ramanujan's father was a professor of mathematics in Mysore University, and he must have gone to work every day wearing a turban. Mother standing on her bare splayed feet, the picture of the poet's father and the poet's mother. Mother standing, probably the father is sitting in a chair. That is why the poet specifically says, mother standing. And the mother is standing by the side of her husband, by the side of the poet's father who is sitting in a chair. Again, emblematic of patriarchy. Mother standing on her bare splayed feet. Bare feet means she does not wear footwear. Splayed feet means the feet are probably apart, or maybe the toes are apart. You must remember that at that time the men wore footwear, the men wore shoes. The women were less exposed to Western culture. The men were more anglicized than the women. The men were more westernized than the women, and they wore footwear. They wore shoes, while the women usually went around with bare feet. Silver rings on her second toes. Tamil Brahmin women used to wear silver rings on their second toes, symbolizing their marital status. Even today, in traditional households, Tamil Brahmin women who are married wear silver rings on their second toes. It signifies their status as wives.